culture all over the world. For all the good thing that you done for God, that's what makes. We thanking you. We thanking you, brother. Ajan lo moun di sou pa sav ki chale yo pwen wivi esi. Fo nou konen kwaye yo akumas makadas music. Gordon Henderson, Fritz Roy Williams, yo. Vivian Wallace, Exile, One Cooper, Chef Joe.
À toute la Dominique et aux Antilles, c'est un grand plaisir pour nous là encore, messieurs, mesdames, nous disons bienvenue. Paul Saint-Cyr Creole, we also say good morning to you wherever you are, listening to the voice of DBS Radio, and we have a very, very special edition of Creole Heartbeat. Today we'll be having a special guest. As a matter of fact, Cadence Lipso, 53 years ago, was birthed, and the man most instrumental for this actual rhythm, this genre, this musical masterpiece which has done so much for Dominica is on with us live. That's Mr. Gordon Henderson with his Exile One group. They created Dominica's first musical genre and really brought global recognition to the trial. Let's move across to Paris and say good morning to Mr. Gordon Henderson. Est-ce que vous la fouez? Okay, we are not hearing him. As soon as we can get him on, we will try to make sure that we connect with Gordon Henderson. We're trying to hook up with him from Paris, France. We also heard of the sad news of the passing of cadence Lipso icon Halibut earlier this week. We may just, as a matter of fact, speak a little about Halibut and how important he was to cadence Lipso music and what he did, his contribution to Dominica's cadence Lipso music with Bells Combo. And we may touch on that a little, but then Gordon is part of a major revolution taking place in the industry. He has been doing so for several years, a career spanning over 5 decades. Do we have Mr. Henderson on the line? Good morning to you, Sakafet Gordon. Are you hearing me, Gordon?
Good morning to you, Sakafet Gordon. I can see you, I can hear you.
Okay, great, perfect. How are you, my friend? How are you, my brother? How are you, my mentor?
Well, Your Majesty. Well, I should say Your Excellency. You see, I brought you up to Majesty. Your Excellency, I'm feeling pretty good today. I was happy to exchange with you.
Always a pleasure whenever I speak to you. We spend so much time on the telephone, and those days, how technology has really brought us close together. I remember the days of a letter taking about 2-3 weeks to reach somewhere like France, but those days in seconds you can communicate. Gordon, we heard of the sad news over the weekend, the passing of Halibut. And Halibut was very gracious to you in several of our conversations we had. As a matter of fact, he was one of those, if you look at our background, he was one of those just on the side, I think my right side, where his portrait is placed or was placed at the ferry terminal. But when you reminisce on Halibut, Cletus Abraham, what comes to mind, Gordon Henderson?
There are so many things that come to mind. You know, your theme song, I can't remember the lyrics word for word of the first 3 or 4 lines of your theme song, Creole Heartbeat, but it hits the nail right on the head about honoring cadence Lipso artists, because the theme is about cadence Lipso.
Absolutely.
And while they're alive.
Yes.
And Halibut is, because you told me, and I heard him speaking graciously about me, because Halibut and Chubby are 2 artists that always speak to me with a certain reverence that make me feel humble and make me feel proud as well. Because these two artists were just like me in Dominica at a period when we tried to be soul singers. You know, Halibut was quite a soul singer. Yes, 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 yes. As a matter
The
of
way you
fact,
speak, he has that little American accent, and in some of his songs,
right,
wow, reminiscent of the James Brown.
right. You can hear some of the James Brown screams in some of his songs. And I must mention Chubby, because to talk about us of that era, I'm talking about people who are over 70 and still in the business. Many people didn't know that Chubby was quite a calypsonian who won a road match title in Dominica. Now, I make reference to that because, you know, these artists, when they spoke to me, because I have to put it in the past tense a little bit because of Halibut, unfortunately, they always thank me in their way because I was able in my struggle to come with something that was theirs. You know, Eh,
Yes,
cadence calypso is theirs
yes,
because they are cadence, they are calypso, and all that synthesis, that's them. So when with Exile One, we succeeded in putting that together, they just felt, well, thanks for bringing us home. And they stayed home all the way.
absolutely.
Halibut stayed home all the way.
And I mean, he spoke highly about 2006 when he
Yeah.
met you and your gorgeous wife, because he was in Paris to receive that special award for that mega hit Parabol. And you would have seen his performance then. Tell us about that.
Yeah, he came up, but because it's important to know that the guy who has this award, the Dinamich, he was in Dominica because he used to be a frequent visitor of Dominica.
Yes.
He loves Dominica
That's
and
Mitch.
Dominicans.
That's Mitch.
Yeah, yeah, that and Mitch. So Mitch happened to have been in Dominica at the time that Powerball was at the top of every, I almost said hit parade, but of every sound, every radio, every bar, every taxi. Powerball was all over the place. And Mitch had never seen anywhere, Mitch is from Martinique, a song that had such popularity. So he wanted to give an award to not only the songwriter, but the performer of this song, Powerball. So 2006, uh, Halibut arrives in Paris. I was happy to meet him. I was with Shannon, my wife, yeah. Very nice ceremony. Um, he came in his limo, his stretched limo and
Yes.
everything, and he was well dressed in a madras suit, um, something like what you usually wear.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then his performance was like a bombshell
Yes,
because, you know, in 2006, he had no signs of any illness
yes,
or physical. He was a powerhouse. So
yes.
it was the James Brown in him came out and he delivered Powerball with as much power and zeal, and people couldn't understand what they saw because he didn't look like a little boy. He looked like already a grown man, but that grown man, like people like to describe music today with the word energy. People say, I
Yes.
went to a concert and there was a lot of energy.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
he delivered with quite a bit of energy.
And just before we delve into your section, he mentioned something very critical. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because we have been seeing a difference of late. The bands of cadence Calypso different, sounded different. He mentioned Midnight Groovers, Exile One, Bells Combo was, they had a special sound. Almost all the bands then, Below Men, Gramax, had a distinct sound, which is non-existent today, Gordon.
Well, whenever I hear that, I always try to bring in what I think is a sound opinion on that question. In that time, as you rightfully mentioned, there were bands. So every band would have its own sound, not only in cadence calypso,
Yes.
every reggae band of the era, every calypso band. I mean, you had La Viscount Brass in Antigua, and you would have Swinging Stars. They didn't have the same sound. Cadence calypso bands. But what we have seen with technology is even the way people compose is different. One man creates a beat that he sells, he gives, he distributes. Sometimes he fights with his other um, collaborators, and somebody else might just include. It will take us a whole program one day to explain the different ways of production. So the beats sound the same. One, because most of them are done by the same persons.
Yeah.
And secondly, the sounds, because Bells Combo had a drum set.
Yes.
So
Acoustic drum
the
set.
drum set would have a sound of the drum set.
Yes.
And Exile and Gramax and everybody had a drum set. Now, you don't see any drum sets except here and there to flourish whatever has been programmed on systems that have 2,000 sounds of bass drum, 2,000 sounds of snare. So it's a whole new way of producing music on a whole. And that might help creativity or it might kill. We need a program on that.
Absolutely. And even I want us to, even before we discuss, I want to discuss the Guadeloupe tour and then get back into the musical journey, Dominica's musical journey. Where are we today, and possibly look at where we can be if we take the proper measures. But Gordon, you continue to amaze me, and I want to place. By the way, Sobers just said hi to you, Sobers Esprit. You
Now here,
continue.
I had Sobers in my mind because I wanted to bring up something with regards to Sobers. Go
Uh-huh.
ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but you can bring it up before you answer. This is this month end, that's the 28th and 29th. You'll be once again continuing that journey where we in Dominica don't appreciate the genre that you and the Exile One gang or crew or band created 53 years ago. You'll be a major highlight. Different with some younger musicians, but it will be Gordon Henderson 2 nights in a special reunion celebration. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, as you suggested, I thought of Sobers. And Sobers was on my mind this very moment because I heard Sobers in the wake of Halibut's death speaking of the demise of a number of musicians from the, particularly from the cadence era.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it has a link with your question, because this is not the time and place to discuss, but I know that Soba suggested um, measures like social security and that sort of thing. And on your show, Creole Heartbeat,
Yeah.
I have tried sometimes to suggest, we have spoken about, now we're talking about bouillon is taking over the world. And I have asked, what is in place? Do these artists who go out frequently earn revenue, income? Where do they pay their taxes on such income? And this is a question that has been dismissed or not really taken on. Now, if you live abroad, you're going to pay taxes abroad. But in Dominica, the narrative is if you live abroad, you didn't emigrate, you ran away. And it's the general thing. I hear ministers of religion, ministers of government, sometimes when they get angry, they will say, oh, you're all in the diaspora and you this and that, as if there is no connectivity, that as if you no longer belong. Now, if you live in Dominica and you earn outside of Dominica, by right, you should pay taxes, but not only taxes. These taxes would guarantee that if at age whatever, 55, 60, 70, whatever is the retirement age in Dominica, because music, if we want to consider it as a profession, we want to consider it as industry. We cannot be going out and making money and coming back and saying, boy, we make money and we're not paying taxes anywhere. We are not paying social charges like social security anywhere.
Yeah.
And I like to speak of my own experience. There are many people, and I prefer not to mention names, when they started working with me, because I was alone in Guadeloupe with Levy King. So I attracted a number of Dominicans, some of which worked with me. The first thing I did was to try to get them to be owners of their works. So to get them into SASEM. SASEM is a copyright society. And if you work well in SASEM, you're going to be covered in terms of what they call Social Security in France, which is not the same as America. Social Security deals with certain things. In France, Social Security covers your health and your retirement. Those who listened to me reached retirement age and were secure. And this is from the cadence era. And I should add, I was even surprised. I was in Dominica when I was 55 years old. I'm 76 now. That's when I received a letter that from next month, you are entitled to your retirement. Now, this is a country where they are fighting over the legal retirement age. Is it 60, 65, 70? It's a big political debate. As a songwriter, composer, I must say it's not we. I became a retiree. That doesn't mean that I stopped working there, because as you mentioned, we will talk about the 27th and the 28th of this month.
Yeah. But it's very important because and sometimes the new generation seem to think of only now and now only. And the reason why I say that, if the business of music is understood and followed, you can have a reasonable retirement. And then sometimes
Yes,
we because I just saw an article just recently of the Baron, who isn't experiencing the best of health, and then he had to get some assistance from, let's say, the government. So I'm not sure what is in
yeah, I
place for
saw
his
that.
retirement. You saw the article also. And it just hit me. I
Yes,
tried to
yes,
wonder, whether they did their business properly, or whether his situation is even more dire. But then that level of education is so important for our musicians to understand that it is a business. It is not just gone are the days of coming and play for fun. It's a business. And I'm very
it's
happy
a,
you mentioned in those benefits you can get from your music, your work.
yeah, and not only it's a business, but we need to follow the right mentors, so to speak. It's a good thing that you mentioned Baron. You were in Trinidad when Sprang Alang was the chair of the meeting. We went down there with Eddie Toulon to promote World Creole Music Festival. And I told them that I cannot understand how my copyright society at the time could have written to me asking me if I work, I am the old time subjunctive, the owner of Sugar Boom Boom. I grew up in Dominica, believed that the Trinidadians were ahead of us. In the cadence calypso era, and Baron is about that same age group, we were ahead of them.
Which means that
So
the owners of Sugar Boom Boom did not register Sugar Boom Boom at the time.
at the time, Lord Kitchener, and
Not
Lord Kitchener is a man like Sparrow and these guys that I grew up emulating. And I thought that they had their act together. When I went to Guadeloupe, Mark Marie can tell you, um, Roland Dulsol can tell you, one of the first books that I get is a book titled This Business of Music. Several editions came out, and I always referred it to them. I have given copies to a number of Dominicans, and it tells you everything that you need to know about the business of music. I thought the Trinidadians knew. They didn't know. So in the 70s, moving into the 80s, we're already ahead of them. At least everybody from Dominica that I introduced to music, they're covered. They're properly covered, unless they fell apart along the way. But I made sure that I did that. Unfortunately, um, I only really met Halibut in 2006 in Paris. I knew his music. I I appreciated his unique style of rhyming. He's one of those poets that will write certain songs and use the same rhyme from the beginning to the end. And he had the talent of making it make sense. I also noticed something that many people may not have noticed, that Bell's Combo, besides Exile One that was um, signed to a major record company, Gramax was never signed to a major record company or distributed. But I know at least of one record of Bell's Combo that was distributed in Europe by a major company. I don't know if their deal was properly done. So normally they should have earned well, at least from
from
that
that particular deal.
distribution. Yeah, yeah.
This month, when
Now to
gone,
go,
history will be
n-
created in Guadeloupe, Basse.
yes, in all French departments, overseas, Guadeloupe, Martinique, also departments of France as well, because France, mainland France is divided into departments. They have what they call scène nationale, a hall which is like a national, um, what would we use to translate it? A national hall,
A national
so
theater,
to
something
speak.
like a national theater.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like the Arawak House of
But
Culture.
at a more grand scale.
Yeah, because they have like the one in Guadeloupe, which is called Archipel. Um, and this morning I noticed you, because I know you're a great Creole proponent, and we have an English word archipelago, like architect. But I noticed in Dominica we love our Creole, so we say archipelago.
Yes.
So I noticed that this morning listening to the radio.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
the one in Guadeloupe is called Archipel. They have three different halls similar to the our work, and I was told that our sound engineers will be housed at the premises. So it's a whole system. And they decided that they see cadence calypso not as a thing of the past or something of nostalgia, but they think in terms of continuity. They know, Guadeloupe became a French department. I think it's in 1947. So before that, it was just like a colony. And from that time to now, their musical patrimony has evolved from one step to the other, and they consider that the 70s was a major period, and Zouk, whatever followed, didn't replace, it just continued. It's the growth is like a tree, you
Yeah.
know. So the stem, it continues. So it's like the celebration of that era at La Chapelle.
Yeah.
And it's a theater where people will be sitting, and Caribbean people like to dance. So they might stand and dance, but people will, I hope, come and appreciate. Some of them will be nostalgic, because one of the joys of having a form of longevity in this business is people come up to you and tell you things like, I met my husband on your song. I figure there are more intimate things that they wouldn't dare talk about. Um, I must have told you before, when I did with Exile One a show, I think for the 40th anniversary of Exile One in La Réunion, the first two front rows were reserved to wheelchairs.
Wow.
So this demonstrated the age and the health condition of the first two front rows. And I have never forgotten that, and that touched me.
Yeah.
for so many reasons, for many, many reasons. And so this is something. Another thing is the rows behind that. I could see sometimes three generations, people of my age group, uh, their sons and daughters, and their grandchildren.
Wow. So several
So
generations,
you,
which means, and interestingly, you mentioned that, because this is so interesting. Let's say Guadeloupe, the appreciation for the genre that they could bring their children and their grandchildren to understand the value of what cadence calypso is. But in the homeland, it is like something you throw or you forget it. And I say that boldly, mainly because that's how I feel a lot of times when I sometimes single handedly have to continue being there for it. Because I been frequently in the French, I understand how they value good music, good things. And I know they value cadence calypso, and that is why I wanted to make the connection with this particular event. It's because they value cadence calypso. It's because they see cadence calypso as almost like a spinal cord of Caribbean music. What evolved after and even what we're experiencing now with the whole boom of bouillon, the foundation was right there, Gordon. And that is why I wanted us to highlight this weekend. You will be having a new team. And by the way, our hearts goes out to the memory of Fitzroy, who you played with for over 60 years, 50, 60 years. But you'll be having
yep.
a brand new team. Young guys, let's say the first generation or the second generation. But then they have that love for the genre. And, how you seeing them, because you said you're 76 now, carrying on the mantle. And why you decided to expose them. Because I know you have several options. You have bands in Martinique, you have bands in Guadeloupe, you have bands you can then back you up anywhere else. But you decided to get the younger Dominican musicians to back you up at this major concert.
Well, it's good that you mentioned Fitzroy Williams because Fitzroy Williams and I, musically, we go back before cadence calypso. We started playing music at SMA and did all kinds of things. He went out with the Gaylords and so on. And then he selected the members of the first batch, I should say. Because
Okay.
the other day I was trying to count the amount of people. Exile One cannot be considered as a band because over 60 musicians recorded, played with the group. Fitzroy selected the first batch. Now, there is something about, because what you were saying previous to your question is the way Dominicans look at cadence. Um, so much so, not long ago, I had to be practically making noise with a musician friend of mine who has played with me in Dominica, out of Dominica, and he's writing on Facebook about cadence, CANDANC. And I had to say, and I'm talking about a guy with a master's degree. Huh?
Wow.
I wouldn't say in what area, but this is not in his head. He has never really taken it seriously and think about cadence. And that is why I say that the word in English is cadence. CADENC. That means rhythm. But we pronounce it in Creole because we were dressing first of all, we're singing in Creole. It's the same word. It exists in English, in French, in Creole. They call that a cognate in linguistics. So it's cadence. In English, if you don't want to speak Creole, it's cadence, no cadence.
Yeah.
But then I realized that, as you said, this thing started 53 years ago. So if a guy is 45 or 35, he only knows that as a thing that Wadix plays on the weekends. Even Wadi Kole, he might not really know.
No.
So we still have a job to do in, I don't want to use the word educate, but informing the populace.
Not only the populace, Gordon, I believe, because we have had Cadence Month, we have had several seminars. I believe it needs to be a holistic approach to understanding our values. And I say that because we are not a people that like to consume or like to, we don't believe ours, what we have is the best. I started to see some semblance of that now with the new genre. And because based on the arguments, but prior to that, we always saw what we have. There is something else better than it outside there. And we have, I get the feeling that we place Cadence in this something else that is better than it. And it hurts. Because like Halibut said, every band had a different sound. Every band had a distinct sound. When you look at the catalog of Cadence music and the various topics, the diverse amount of topics that are covered, hardly no smut, and the arrangements, even if you said that there were several mistakes on the recording then, but the arrangements stood out. Several of the major Zouk artists, from Pierre Edouard, from Jacob Devarieux, from Luc Leandri, what is that guy, Mano, that continues to have Bill Linford John. When these guys speak to me, they talk about the influence of Cadence on their career. It's like as if, yes, Guadeloupe had music then, we all know of it, but then the Cadence made that kind of impact on their career. And that is the reason why I believe, and I want to say it, that is why in the ad I said the epitome, and I really, this is dear to me. We talk about resilience, and we're talking about resilience as a nation. And here is somebody like U76 headlining a major Guadeloupe event for 2 nights. And it's a big reunion celebration. And in Dominica, you'll get 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and those things hurt. Those things hurt. How long are you going to be playing for at the concerts?
Well, the contract is between 90
minutes
and
120.
2 hours.
120 normally. That's, and that is where I talking about appreciation, You are featured.
There's no opening act.
Yes.
If you notice that we have been fortunate wherever we go over the last 20, 25 years, there's no opening act, be it in French Guyana, Reunion Island.
Even the last event in Guadeloupe, or last event in Martinique.
In Martinique, yeah.
Well, the other one was the clash of the
Well, the clash was that was just
that's a different
thing to laugh. Yeah. That is two old guys from the
70s.
But as a matter of fact, I didn't even come with a band.
Yeah.
I used the Martinican band.
Yes.
But at the festival, for the first festival, the people came to see one act. Now, in Dominica, for some reason, well, this is why I laugh about it, because there's nothing else we can do. when you emigrate, people consider you as having abandoned the country or run away, as they like to say. And you never get the right representation. I mean, for the last 3 or 4 participations I've had in the World Creole Music Festival, I've always been given, I've been rushed off the stage, um, and always grouped up with a number. That's the we mentality that dismisses individuality. You know, everybody in one group because this is the Cadence so gang and this kind of thing. So this is how we see it. Uh,
And I
that's how we.
believe, and to my mind, gone, it doesn't give the genre its importance.
Yes, and it's modern music. It is modern music. Before Cadence so I in our private discussions, I must have explained to you that Dominicans started practicing a foreign accent when they were leaving Melvin Hall.
Yeah.
People were not proud to speak like Dominicans. Proud, they didn't have anything. What would you go out? Because you have traditional music and you have contemporary music. You couldn't go out there and tell people, well, Jinping and whatever. That's traditional music. That is for your own cultural heritage. We didn't have that. Cadence was born before Dominica. By that I mean before somebody takes me up and misunderstand me and misquote me. Dominica is a country, an independent country from what it is, 1978.
Yeah.
Cadence was born in 1973. And when Cadence I don't know. There are a number of Dominicans who studied in Cuba and so on. They would tell me that when they would go, they would be on campus, there would be artists, not artists, students from Africa and different places that would come with their little boom boxes, and what they heard was Cadence Calypso. That made them proud. That gave Dominicans at the time a reason to be proud to be from somewhere. And all of this helped towards the building a mentality of independence.
Okay, so Gordon,
The thing is,
so next week Saturday, because I don't want us to lose focus. So next week Saturday and next
Friday
week
and
Sunday.
Saturday.
Next week
Friday and
Friday,
Saturday.
next week Friday and Saturday, at the La Chapelle in Basse-Terre.
Bastard, Guadeloupe.
And you
That's
have a
right.
younger crew. Tell us about the younger crew of the musicians.
Okay, well, this is a crew that has been in formation little by little while Fitzroy was alive. Right now, Cornell Phillip is the band leader, and Cornell will tell you that Fitzroy has been a mentor of some sort to him, despite the fact that Cornell has a better musical formation, but Fitzroy was someone who began with steel pan and of an era where we lived and appreciated, like Halibut, a wide variety of music. So all of that transcends in whatever we do in the Cadence Calypso. So Cornell was more or less prepared for that. Cornell himself is someone who is at the genesis of Bouillon. Although when I say that, I must say that Bouillon maintained the name, but the rhythm, the style has evolved. And I can quickly say like soca, because if Shorty resurrects today and he hears soca, I don't think he will recognize it. So it's evolution, you know. Sometimes we change the name, sometimes we don't. The rest of the band, um, well, you saw them in action in Martinique. Um, I don't know if that's a year or 2 years ago at the World Creole Music Festival. That generation of musicians, they are better trained, they are more precise in terms of their execution, they are more professional, um, and I am always happy to see that some of the issues that we had in the 70s. For example, in Exile One, the musicians were very disciplined. And that's what all we did was music. So we went to rehearsal every day in the morning like any other job and spent all day working. But we partied very high. I say we. I am not so much of a party man. I don't really dance and I don't really party. But I am glad to see that this generation of musicians, they they are not, they don't indulge in the feasts of Bacchus. You know what I'm talking about?
Bacchanal, bacchanal.
Yeah, but the word bacchanal comes from a Greek god, I think, called Bacchus, who used to fire a lot of booze.
So, how important is this weekend of two concerts back to back, the Friday and the Saturday, and looking forward to Gordon Henderson and Gordon Henderson 77th, 78th, and 79th year, if God bless you with those
Wait,
years.
Papa, it been you that's distributing and be safe. No, it's very, very important. We have a 5 camera crew. Uh, they're going to be shooting one night or both nights. In any case, it's to put it in the archives. And the show will be broadcast on the French television overseas network. That is Martinique, Guadeloupe, Guyana, French Guyana, Reunion, etc. Now, the whole idea is to take this Dominican team um, on a long tour. That's why we call it the retrouvailles, meaning reunion in a kind of way in English. Retrouvailles, like if you hadn't seen family for a long time in Creole and in French, it's the retrouvailles. You get back together. So after the broadcast of that one, we hope to do a long tour in many scènes nationales around France. And this is to show outside an area of Dominican music that is not only reserved to one aspect of our entertainment, something that is over half a century old and demonstrates melody, harmony. I hate to say class, but class, because we're in a period, it's very, very popular. Sometimes Danse Kole seems like something
Antiquated.
wrong and out of style and so on. And it's been replaced with simulations of sex. And, so if that's the way, that's the way. But we have another way. I have never represented Dominica or been invited to represent Dominica in anything. No Carry Festa, no this,
You
no that.
serious?
Never, never. And as you know, I've never had any national award.
God,
Although,
God, now I want you,
well,
I want you to repeat that. I
no,
want you to
I've never
repeat that.
received any national award. Other people in exile that I brought in when they were 18 years old, they've received. And the strange thing is when Chubby and Co, they were getting their national award, I was officially invited to accompany them because the rule is they must be accompanied by someone who had before. I responded that I've never had, so I do not qualify. They told me, no, don't forget it. So we just do it, man. And I went and I
But
accompanied
Gordon, I
them.
mean,
But
honestly,
the band is
I
Dominica.
got to put you on the spot today. I got to put you on the spot today. How, I mean, I brought it up at the festival. Strangely, I got some
Negative
thumps.
read.
I got some kicks and cuffs for that, which it doesn't really matter, because I know what I am a man. Good is good, bad is bad. It doesn't really matter to me. But how does it make you feel? A 60-year career, you at the helm of creating a genre, creating the same festival, the World Creole Music Festival. You were the overseas man, putting everything together, and I know much more. What we enjoy as the French visitor, and I want to say it on record today, the thousands we get from Guadeloupe and Martinique in particular would not have been possible if the French media was not made to feel like a stakeholder in the World Creole Music Festival. And I recall that year you brought down a team, almost 50, 60 men from RFO with that short guy. I'm not sure, very short guy. But I remember you bringing down a team from RFO with a major contingent of cameramen and,
At their expense.
at their expense. So they paid to come down, they paid for
Yeah.
accommodation, and they covered the festival and brought back the
And broadcasted.
images. And brought back the images that went as far as Africa, all over. You're not getting
All
away
over.
today, How you feel, Gordon, at your contribution to Dominica's music and having been awarded nationally?
Well, I realize that we are a young country. We're run by a government that most of them were not born yet. Uh, so to them, that is ancient history. So it doesn't matter. What consoles me is that the same market, Martinique, Guadeloupe, they've never let me down. If they let me down and then I will know then I should hang up my boots, it will be on the 27th and the 28th. So I am consoled by that. So
Do you feel, last question, and I'm just going to call a few names and possibly some of those that I remember off my head: Jeff Joe, that Gone to the Wild Beyond, that were very prolific in cadence, so Fitzroy Williams, Kevin Serra, Gramax, Oliver Cruikshank, their original drummer. He was in Voltage 4 with you, right?
yes, yes.
Oliver Cruikshank, Tony Valmore of Liquid Ice. Well, Bill Thomas Trinidadian, but we know of his contribution.
Of the family.
Yes, and Eka did quite a bit of a different type of cadence, but he tried to continue. Also, that guy
Yes.
Pierre Labasse, that short guy from Good Hope. Not very much is mentioned
Yep.
of him, but then he had that album Songmasters with kind of bit of the
Oh,
same
that
film.
guy.
With the guy with the
I
film
never
song for
met him, but
Esperas Creole.
I love that guy.
Man, let me tell you something. It hurt me. I cried when Miguel Labadi called me and told me Mister was the guy that they caught in the accident, man. I cried,
The
virtually
accident
cried.
with his nephew or somebody.
Yes, man. I cried because there was something special about this guy, Pierre Labassiere, and his song Wash La Masola with his is the theme song of Experience Creole. But this guy had something special about him. There was also a guy in Port Harcourt called Abbott used to play with Black Blood. Also, Affley,
Right.
a guy that just disappeared. Affley was a guy on the block. Then there was also
Oh,
he just disappeared and we never heard of him. They say the river took him or some kind of thing like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then there was
Yeah.
the Stowe brother in Milestones and also Marshall brother. One of
Eh,
Marshall brothers died recently. I think a year or two ago.
yeah. Yeah. Alvin.
And
Yeah.
then there was a Stowe guy in
Eric, the
Milestones.
drummer, Eric Stowe.
And then also Jamala also played for Black Machine. And
Yeah. And
these were
I
the
joined
guys.
with him
But
too.
then we have about 7 more minutes. Do you believe that we appreciate our heroes? And I have been calling for a Heroes Day. We know what happened by the Bayfront, and we don't want to revisit that. We've taken out the billboards and so on. Every time I think of it, I get sick, Gordon. Every time just thinking of it, I get sick. Just thinking of it, I just feel to migrate. Just leave Dominica and because you put up billboards of your ancestors, your heroes, and it was vandalized. You made several complaints and nothing was done until you had to actually remove it. You know how far this image is gone? When Gussie tell me, Gussie all over. And he was so proud, Anthony Gussie, he was so proud that we did that for him. Fitzroy saw his image on the Bayfront before he died. Harley saw his image. Ko told me, Gussie, I money put you a photo, Kote sa, he had to go and take a picture of himself. And that is what we try to do for the guys that made us feel good. And Dominica, owning a genre. No one can take it away from Dominica. Whether Dominicans don't want it, Dominicans made a genre 53 years ago. Nobody else can say anywhere in the world anything about it. When I saw Midnight Groovers at the United Nations and the different nationalities globally, they were not understanding nothing the guys were saying, but they just appreciated the music. When we hear of Gramax at the Super Bowl, what is wrong with our people? Do you believe that we understand the value of people like you, Ophelia, the rest? What they have done. You don't have to like the person. You don't have to like the person. You don't have to be on the same political side with the person. But this is away from all of that. You guys contributed. You guys, like you said, you practiced day, night, and brought Dominica's name. Before that, we know what our name was like in Guadeloupe. I did the research. And before Color Slips to Music, Dominica had a terrible name in Guadeloupe. Dominica had a terrible name in Guadeloupe before 1973. I'm aware of it. And then Cadence brought some respectability to Dominica's name because there were several guys that were not behaving themselves and they were doing all sorts of things in Guadeloupe at the time. But then Cadence changed that until Frenchmen were wearing Afro and they were actually emulating you guys. That is the kind of revolution that you caused. And yes, you in Dominica. For whatever reason, we just decide, that's your view bagay. And it's like it's like just the day Dominica was born. They're forgetting that we are a grown-up nation now. We have a history, we have a legacy. Final words before I vote on John Baptist. get me out of here. And by the way, before I leave, thank you for the support that you have given to me and Creole Heartbeat. Thank you for inviting me over to next weekend's concert and giving me ambassadorial VIP status. I will do my best to represent, and thank you for always being there for me and for listening to me 1 to 3 o'clock in the morning when I have no one else to talk to. Thank you very much. Final words, Gordon.
Well, all I can say is a big, big, big thank you to Creole Heartbeat, because had it not been for Creole Heartbeat, I wonder if the word cadence calypso would still be in our vocabulary. So thanks a lot. I once wrote a song titled Boomerang, where I referred to the brave warriors. So the brave warriors are all these people that were in the army.
Yeah.
So some will be recognized, but I think in 50 years from now, when a new crop will be doing research, they will thank you, Wadix and Creole Heartbeat, and they probably might make a Hall of Fame and put all the names of these wonderful people. Thanks a lot again.
Yeah, man. God bless you and stay safe. Big up the madam. I'm looking forward to next weekend. Honestly, I want to continue to pray the Father will bless you with health. You look well for 76, my brother. And I'm very proud of the work that you have done for Dominica, bringing Dominica's name, and continue to do. That's why I said in the ad, we're talking about a resilient country, but here it is, epitome of resilience. God bless you, my friend, my brother, my mentor. See you next weekend. This was another Creole Heartbeat program.
Thanks. Madam is making me look good.
Well, I may have to follow your suit and get a young wife. Anyway, this another Creole Heartbeat program. It's over to the Barry White of DBS Radio. The birthday man, the birthday celebration continues. Hazari, take it over.
For all the wonders you done for us all, spreading the culture all over the world. For all the good things that you done for Cadas Wadix. We thanking you, brother. Trick. L'argent au monde bisou pas ça qui chale yo point oui ici. Faut nous connaître quoi yo